guess what? It is March. It is officially March. It is time for March Madness. It is time for the best sport to take over. The last week of February did not disappoint, let me tell you. We had one of the strangest weeks of college basketball that you can ever imagine. Specifically Tuesday, even Wednesday as well. On Tuesday alone, we saw two buzzer beaters, one of which was from half court. We saw a fire alarm pulled that had an impact on a game, a serious impact on the game. A coach having to yell at fans to stop throwing stuff on the court in a rivalry game, in a Big 12 rivalry game. Wake Forest lost to Notre Dame after they had just beat Duke and got into our bracketology. And by the way, Kansas also lost at Allen Fieldhouse, which never happens. In fact, it was the first time this year it happened. On Wednesday, many bubble games. There were a lot of teams in action. We had some high-ranked teams, including Dalton Connect. He scored 39 points in Tennessee's win over Auburn. We're going to talk about all of this, all of the results. We're also going to talk about some of our All-American teams as it stands right now going into March. We'll talk about our bracketology, of course, and then, of course, some bubble watch. Always interested in seeing who's in, who's out. First four in, first four out, stuff like that. Then, of course, we'll preview this weekend. We have a loaded slate on Saturday. We say it every week. It's always loaded. Early KenPom lines, they're out. We'll, of course, talk about some of that so you can get a head start on some of your betting advice. There's so many ranked matchups this weekend, so many just important matchups that we're going to separate it into different segments, including ranked unranked matchups. There's 5 of them. Just quality matchups in general, and then we'll do some bubble implication games. So there's a ton of them. Normally it's a Sweet 16, but I think today we got 20-some. It's going to be loaded. It's going to be fun. Stick with us. Give us a like if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe while you're down there. We really appreciate it. No poll question today. I apologize for that, but we got enough to talk about. So let's dive right into it. Let's go all the way back to Monday just real quick. Remember Monday. It's a while ago. Big Monday was Miami at number 9, North Carolina, and then number 15, Baylor at TCU. Both ranked teams won the game. North Carolina won, but R.J. Davis, we just got to mention, he scored 42 points, one of the best games we've seen all year. And then number 15, Baylor, they lost earlier in the year at Baylor to TCU in triple overtime. Remember that game, 105-102. Now they won this one, 62-54. Great Baylor defense in this one, great TCU defense as well, but it was good stuff from Scott Drew's squad there, so that's a big win for Baylor to help their seed lining. Then we also just want to mention real quick West Virginia at Kansas State, where Kansas State won 94-90. This game was in overtime. Kansas State led by 25 in the second half. Raekwon Battle for West Virginia, he led them all the way back, just avoided the loss that ends your season basically for Kansas State. They still won in overtime, and Jerome Tang's overtime win streak continues. All right, now let's talk about Tuesday. We want to talk about Tuesday, got to talk about Tuesday. Let's start with the Blue Bloods. Let's talk about Kansas and Kentucky first. Let's start in Allen Fieldhouse with the Kansas game. BYU went in and beat them, as we mentioned. Nobody does that. Nobody goes to Allen Fieldhouse and wins except BYU in their first game at Allen Fieldhouse in the Big 12. 76-68 was the final score. Kevin McCullough did not play for Kansas. This broke the 19-game win streak at Allen Fieldhouse for Kansas. And Kansas, it wasn't like BYU just went in and like just outplayed them. Kansas actually led by 12 in the second half, and then fouls were actually very heavily towards Kansas, believe it or not. And Mark Pope got a technical foul, and BYU went on a run right after this. Sometimes those technical fouls are strategic. In this situation, it very much looked like it was. Dickinson, as I said, a lot of fouls for BYU. Hunter Dickinson went to the line 15 times and only made 6 of them. He couldn't buy a bucket all night. Kansas shot only 39% in this game, 20% from 3. In place of Kevin McCullough, who is probably their best player, Nick Timberlake stepped in the starting lineup, 1 for 9 from the field, 1 for 6 for 3. We saw him step in against, who was it that they just beat? Texas. He stepped in for Kansas and Kevin McCullough against Texas, and he played great, and this just shows that they need that 5th guy to win a game. For BYU, though, impressive stuff. Dalen Hall, Jackson Robinson, they both led 18 points apiece. Both were very efficient from the field. BYU is a lock. BYU, they could lose every game from now on, and they will be in the NCAA tournament. We currently have them as a 5 seed right now. Mark Pope's squad trending in the right direction. Good stuff for BYU. Impressive. Moving on to the other blue blood we want to talk about. Number 16, Kentucky, went to Mississippi State and beat them 91-89. This is a huge, huge win for Kentucky, who's been up and down as of late, but this is a big win on the road. Reed Shepherd, the absolute story of this game. He had a buzzer beater in this game. Well, call it a buzzer beater. There was like 0.5 seconds left on the clock. Afterwards, basically a buzzer beater. It was a game winner for sure. He had a career high 32 points in this game, 11 of 14 shooting, 4 of 7 from 3, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Stat line is just incredible. If you didn't see the end of this game, I'll just take you through it real quick. It was nuts. Now, Kentucky led by 7 with 39 seconds left, I think it was. And then Mississippi State just kept fighting back. Josh Hubbard, he hit a crazy 3 to tie it up late. Just confident, stepped into it, fadeaway like 28-footer. Huge 3, tied it all up. Cal did not call a timeout. Coming down the court, and Reed Shepherd ended up hitting a floater to win it from the pass from DJ Wagner. Great call by Coach Calipari there to not call the timeout and just trust his guys. It obviously ended up working out for him. I mean, Reed Shepherd is special. We are going to give a shout out to Josh Hubbard as well. He had 34 points, 11 of 24 shooting. He made 7 threes. Then he had, obviously, we talked about that huge one to tie it up, but it was just him and Reed Shepherd, battle of the freshmen. It was a fun watch. Hopefully everyone tuned into that game. And that wasn't even the craziest finish of the night. The game finished around 1 in the morning on the East Coast, so many people did not check it out. Nevada beat Colorado State 77-74. Jared Lucas, he missed 2 free throws. Isaiah Stevens ended up hitting a huge shot to tie it up. And then Jared Lucas hit a half-court shot. It was beyond half-court buzzer beater to win the game. I think a stat came out. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was the longest half-court or longest buzzer beater to actually win the game of all time in college basketball. It was nuts. It was so deep. I mean, just Nevada is just rolling right now. Colorado State continues to struggle. Both teams safely in the tournament as of right now, though. But wow, epic finish there. Go check it out on Twitter. We reposted it everywhere. It's on our Instagram. Very fun stuff. Moving on to another just interesting game. Just crazy stuff going all around the nation. Now, Texas dominated Texas Tech. This game was at Texas Tech. It was Texas from the beginning. The final score ended up being 81-69. It wasn't that close. Texas led by 20 plus the entire game. The story of this game was late in the second half. Brock Cunningham, he got ejected going for a loose ball where he just kind of hip checked Texas Tech's Darian Williams. It did not look like a play on the ball. It was kind of controversial. People were like, yeah, he's dead bolting for the ball. It's just a hustle play. Up 20, why would you really do it? It didn't look like he was going for the ball. Then it was just kind of an ugly scene after that. Texas Tech fans started throwing stuff on the court. Grant McCaslin, their coach, he's done an incredible job this year. By the way, he's very, very close with the students. He had to get on the microphone on the PO box and tell the students to stop throwing stuff on the court. They did receive a tech for this because they kept throwing stuff on the court. It's pretty rough when Grant McCaslin asked, and it did not stop them. They continued to throw stuff on there. It was a pretty bad look in this game. I mean, obviously the hip check was kind of rough, but it was just a bad look for Texas Tech in general. Already kind of been a messy season. Remember that Pop Isaacs situation? That kind of just went away, where it really hasn't been resolved. It's still out in the year. For those who don't know, it happened in early January, I think it was. He assaulted a 17-year-old girl in the Bahamas. People just kind of forgot about it until, I'm just bringing it up now because of this messy situation. Just a lot of controversy going on with the Texas Tech team. He did not. You think something would have come out by now on such a serious accusation. You really don't know. Apparently he assaulted her in a bedroom. Him and a buddy took 2 girls back to their room. They were, obviously this girl was 17 and she said no and he said yes, I think is the story. Don't want to speak on anyone's behalf, but just no resolution. It's already been messy and this is not a good look for Texas Tech going forward. Speaking of Pop Isaacs, he was 5 of 18 in this game, by the way. Not great. I think Texas Tech's overrated. They're comfortably in right now. They're probably an eight-ish seed, 7-8ish seed right now. I don't see a way that they get to the Sweet 16 unless they get lucky and were to play Fairleigh Dickinson that beats Purdue again. Don't take this win away for Texas, though. This was a huge win. This basically solidifies them in the tournament. They're not quite a lock. They couldn't lose every game. I mean, they maybe still could. I mean, the bubble just keeps losing, but just about. They should safely be in. You saw the talent they had in this game. Dylan Dessou is incredible. He had 21 points. Max Abesmith, 18 points. Shendell Weaver had 15 off the bench. Jaden Shedrick added 10 off the bench in only 8 minutes. Pieces are there for Texas if they can just if Rodney Terry can put it all together, they'll get it done. Now, you mentioned Wake Forest lost to Notre Dame. Final score, Notre Dame 70, Wake Forest 65. As mentioned, they just picked up that win to beat Duke, and all they had to do was avoid a loss at Notre Dame. It didn't happen. It is a quad 2 loss as of right now. It wasn't quad 2. It was quad 3 when, I guess, in the middle of the game, it was quad 3. But after this result, Notre Dame moved into like 132nd in the net, so it's now technically quad 2. Still could move to quad 3, but this Notre Dame team is not as bad as you would think. But yeah, I'm not going to get to dive too much in this game. It just happened. It's something you got to deal with now. I think we have them as a first 4 game right now. So it's close. I still think they probably get in, but it's closer than you think. Let's talk about the fire alarm game. Very interesting stuff. Wisconsin lost at Indiana. This game was at Assembly Hall. Indiana won 74-70. The story was a fire alarm being pulled in the midst of a Wisconsin run. Coach Greg Gard for Wisconsin was not too happy about it. He even said, it seemed to be a strategic move. It was just a strange occurrence with all the strangeness going throughout this Tuesday night. I mean, you got the multi-view on all the ESPN networks, and then this game's on Peacock, so probably not a lot of people checked it out. But so I'm just, I mean, you're looking at your phone and you see it's in a delay. It's like, what could possibly happen? You do all this research and it's just crazy. Assembly Hall had to be evacuated. Then when they came back, I mean, it was Indiana, and Khalil Ware just dominated. Khalil Ware just carried them. 27 points, 11 of 12 shooting, 11 rebounds. Very efficient. Huge game for Khalil Ware. We know how talented he is. Probably be a first-round draft pick. As we mentioned, I mean, Indiana's got a lot of talent. Wisconsin keeps losing road games. I still think that they're going to be in the tournament. No, they're a lock to be in the tournament. Still think they're okay. I think they can win a game in March, but you never know. Their seed line is just continuing to struggle. Indiana, though, they're not going to be in March unless they win the Big Ten tournament. Their point guard, Trey Galloway, he's transferring, by the way. I heard a rumor. I haven't fact-checked this. I'm pretty sure he's transferring. He took a huge leap this year. He had 12 assists in this game. That could be a big story leaving Indiana. He'll probably transfer somewhere big, I would assume. As for Wisconsin, though, as we mentioned, they are a lock. They have enough quad 1 and quad 2 wins. Believe it or not, they still don't even have a loss outside of quad 2 because they struggle on the road. Many of these losses have been on the road, and they're not playing well. Don't get me wrong, they're not playing well, but they're still going to be in. We'll see if they can win a game. Don't write them off just yet. I know they're not playing well, but better to be hot really late in the year, maybe the Big Ten tournament, than in the middle of the year. So we'll see. 2 other quick results to mention. Cincinnati went to number 1 Houston. Houston beat them 67-59, and Pitt went to Clemson. Clemson beat them 69-62. Pitt's just about done. They need a lot of help to have any chance. So that's it for Tuesday night. Let's move into Wednesday night real quick. Number 11 Auburn went to number 4 Tennessee. That was the big game of the night. Tennessee beat them 92-84. The story, Dalton Connect, as it has always been. 39 points in this one. I mean, he got off to a slow start in this game, believe it or not, and then just took off. He is the most electric scorer in college basketball. I truly believe it. If I have the number 1 overall pick next year in the NBA draft, I think I'm taking Dalton Connect. And out of the college realm, definitely Dalton Connect. I obviously don't know a lot about some of the foreign guys, some of the G League guys, but in terms of college basketball, he should be the first college basketball taken. I mean, he's lengthy, his arms are extremely long, 6'6". He creates his own shots. He doesn't really force shots like you would think it's such a stud scorer would do. He has natural athleticism. He's efficient. He's averaging 21 points a game right now. I mean, it's Zach Edey. It's Zach Edey at the top. Then it's Dalton Connect and R.J. Davis. Rank them however you want. And then everyone else. I mean, there's the Dalton Connect has just been absolutely incredible. He's got Tennessee close to a 1 seed. It's close. North Carolina still has the edge over them a little bit, but they're the first 2 seed without a doubt, and I could see it flopping very quickly, very quickly. North Carolina even just loses at Duke, not a bad loss. It probably bumps Tennessee up to the 1 line. That's how close it is right now. Let's stay in the SEC real quick. Number 14 Alabama went to Chris Beard's Ole Miss and beat them 103-88. Another 100-point performance for Alabama. Incredible stuff for this offense. Mark Sears led Alabama 26 points. Ole Miss is struggling right now, 6-9 in the SEC. They're trending the wrong way on the bubble. Alabama and Tennessee both wins. They're still tied at the top. It's a fun race to watch. And then number 18 South Carolina went to Texas A&M and beat them 72-68. Talked about BYU being a lock. South Carolina is a lock. They're going to be in March Madness this year. Their resume is great. It is incredible. I think they're 10-3 in the first 2 quadrants. That is really good. Metrics still not all the way there. Let's talk a little bit about the game. Wade Taylor, he had a great drive at the end of the game to tie it up. Namichi Johnson just dropped a dime to wide open Zach Davis. How does someone get so wide open with only a second left? South Carolina ends up winning the game. I really hope that the committee does not let Texas A&M in March Madness. They're 15-13 right now, 6-9 in the SEC. I mean, the metrics kind of like them, but there's no reason a 15-13 team who's 6-9 in the conference should be in the tournament, no matter how much talent they might have. And even their talent, they're so inefficient. Wade Taylor, 4 of 14 in this one, 0 of 7 from 3. Now, I loved Wade Taylor last year, and I still think Wade Taylor is incredible, but he just forces so many shots. People are saying he should be an All-American this year. He should not. He's an incredibly gifted scorer. I mean, he's only shooting 36% from the field this year. He's under 30% from 3. Now, he's really good. He is a difference maker. He's a guy who can take over a game. We saw him do it with at Houston earlier in the year. But I mean, he can just also shoot you out of the game. He's been shooting him out of a lot of games. If Texas A&M's 15-13, rough loss for Texas A&M. This was one they needed. But Lamont Paris from South Carolina, he continues to make his case as Coach of the Year. I think he's the front runner right now for sure. Just in terms of where a team was supposed to be and where they're at, I think Lamont Paris is number 1 right now. South Carolina probably on the they're close to a 5 seed, probably a 6 seed right now though. It's really close, but I would probably lean them as a 6 seed. Moving into the Big East, let's talk about some bubbly matchups. Providence went to Marquette and got destroyed, 91-69. It was just a blowout from the beginning. Not much to talk about in that one. The game we do want to talk about, St. John's went to Butler and killed them 82-59. It was kind of a must-win for both teams. St. John's continuing to stay alive ever since Rick Pitino's comments about his team. St. John's been playing well. Butler not playing well. They've lost 5 in a row. They're close to being done. St. John's hanging on by a thread. Butler still hanging on by a thread, but yikes. Rough stuff for Butler. Great win for St. John's. Seton Hall, kind of on the bubble. They're in. They're on the right side as of now. They went to number 12 Creighton where they had a huge opportunity, but they did get beat 85-64. Not a great day for the bubble teams, as you may be noticing here. For the Big East bubble teams, we'll say. Ryan Kalkbrenner was a story for Creighton. 23 points, 10 of 10 from the field. Perfect shooting night. Good win for Creighton. Creighton up to a 3 seed for us right now. They're playing really well right now. Got a tough one this weekend against Marquette. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Oklahoma went to Iowa State. Iowa State, number 8 team in the nation, beat them 58-45. That's right, 45. They held Oklahoma to only 45 points. Iowa State is the second best defense at KenPom right now, behind only their conference mate, Houston. No Oklahoma player was in double figures in this game. Iowa State better be on the 2 line. They deserve to be on the 2 line. said it from the beginning. I don't think Kansas deserved to be on the 2 line, although it just kind of showed the committee was valuing some of their key wins, like the Tennessee win, the UConn win. But I think Iowa State still just they have the overall better body of work. I think they should be the 2 seed. With Kansas's loss against BYU, I I sure hope they're a 2 seed and they're ahead of Kansas. I'm a Kansas fan, so don't think I'm coming at Kansas, but Iowa State, they deserve to be the 2 seed. Oklahoma hovering around the 8 seed right now. Demarion Watson, he led Iowa State. This was key because it was off the bench, 15 points, 7 to 7 shooting. Iowa State's offense can be a little shaky at times, but if they're getting Demarion Watson scoring 15 points on 100% shooting, that's good stuff. He actually only averages like 2 points a game, so that's a key part there. Moving on, out of the Big Ten, the only Big Ten matchup we'll talk about was Illinois hosting Minnesota. Number 13 Illinois beat them 105-97. Only reason this is important because Minnesota is this probably does it. It was a big opportunity for Minnesota. If they picked up this win, then maybe they could squeeze in, but I don't think so anymore. It is kind of a shame. They've been playing really well as of late. Their resume just not all the way there. Dawson Garcia for Minnesota, he's special. I would have loved to seen him in March. 29 points, 12 of 23 shooting. Terrence Shannon also had 29, which led Illinois. Illinois stays ever so consistent. No really great wins. We mentioned a lot about that Florida Atlantic win on a neutral. That was a good win, much better win at the time. Florida Atlantic kind of fading off a little bit, but they don't really have any bad losses. The thing to note about Illinois, they're third in offensive efficiency at KenPom, 94th in defense. Yikes. We know some of the magic numbers there. The 94 in defense, not great. So something to keep note come March. Last game we're going to talk about, and just because it's a story, Louisville went to number 10 Duke. Obviously the question on if Kyle Filipowski will play. Duke, I mean, they handled Louisville. Louisville's horrible, 84-59. Filipowski did play. He had a decent game. The whole court storming dilemma, it just keeps building. It was key in this one because everyone's saying Filipowski flopped, and that and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not even going to make a statement on it, but just keeps leading to discussions on what we should do about court storming. Obviously, Jay Billis and Seth Greenberg feel a very certain way that they're saying fine the schools $1 million, arrest all the students. It's just a court storm. It's fun. The college students love it. I don't know. It can be seen as dangerous, but I mean, if a player is getting rushed by a fan, maybe let him have self-defense. Let him punch the fan for all I care. I don't know. I love the court storming visuals. It's a lot of fun, but story got a note on it. Let's move on. So we're currently recording this late on Thursday. Nebraska is playing at Ohio State right now. That's kind of a big game for Nebraska's seed line. Ohio State sneakily playing really good. They beat Purdue, and then they won at Michigan State, so 2 quad 1 wins there. They're not out of it yet. They're not in it, nowhere near in it, but there's a slight chance if they can keep picking up huge wins. But the game of Thursday, well, obviously you'll know these results by the time you hear this, so the result that is going to matter is number 23 Gonzaga at San Francisco. Gonzaga might need this one, or else they're going to have to go beat St. Mary's on Saturday at St. Mary's, which is no easy task. So we'll talk about that. All right, let's move on to we mentioned we're going to talk about some of our All-American teams as of right now. Let's dive into that right now. Let's start with our first team. We already mentioned who our little hierarchy of players are. Zach Edey, he's first team. He's player of the year. He's going to go back to back. Then Dalton Knecht and RJ Davis have to be on there. And then next, I think it's actually pretty straightforward. I think it's Jamal Shead and Tristan Newton. Jamal Shead is the best player on the team who's ranked number 1 in the net, in KenPom, in Torvik just about all season. He's the best player on the team, and his stat lines aren't incredible, but I mean, he makes such an impact. He is an incredible defender. Tristan Newton is the best player on the defending national championship team and a team that has been number 1 in the AP poll for how many weeks was it? It was a lot of consecutive weeks. He's a triple-double machine. I think those are the first 5. Tristan Newton, Jamal Shead, RJ Davis, Dalton Knecht, Zach Edey. Let's move into our second team. Let's start with Tyler Kolek from Marquette. probably the best passer in college basketball. He may be injured right now, though, so that's something to keep an eye on. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Kevin McCullough Jr., we're still going to throw him on here. I know he's been hurt. He's been missing games. He might not end up here, but as of right now, I think you got to include him. He's the best player on this Kansas team. Not a lot of people are going to like to hear it. Kyle Filipowski, he is having a great year. I would have him on this list, along with Jaden Ledee from San Diego State. And then Hunter Dickinson, also, he's... As a Kansas fan, this might come off wrong. I think he's been a little bit overrated this year. He's really talented, obviously, but his impact just isn't as much as I thought it was going to be. Now, maybe I had too high expectations. I thought he was going to be... At the beginning of the year, at least, it looked like he might give Zach Edey a run for his money, but that is not the case. We have him on our second team. I would approve of anyone moving Deron Holmes into second team, or just about anyone, even the Armando Baycots, Jonai Brooms of the world. Speaking of our third team, let's start with Deron Holmes out of Dayton and Jonai Broom out of Auburn. Then we do have Mark Sears from Alabama, Antonio Reeves from Kentucky. Yeah, I see the argument for Reed Shepherd if you want to throw him in there. Baylor Shireman from Creighton we also have in there. Also a double-double/triple-double machine. Other people we just got to note. You could throw Terrence Shannon Jr. in the second team, and I wouldn't have an argument for it. Armando Baycott, we already mentioned. And then Reed Shepherd, throw him anywhere. He's so efficient. And then Isaiah Stevens out of Colorado State. Let's give him some love, some Mountain West love. He has been incredible. That's it. That's our. We're going to have that posted on our Instagram and Twitter. So go check that out if you're interested in seeing all the teams spread out. Let's move into our bracketology. We're going to talk about our 1 through 5 seeds and then the bubble watch. The 1 seeds: Purdue, UConn, Houston. It's self-explanatory. They're the 3 best teams in the country. As I mentioned, still have North Carolina with the edge over Tennessee. They're our 4th 1 seed. Tennessee is the first 2 seed. Followed by Arizona, Marquette, and please, Iowa State. Iowa State as the last 2 seed. The 3 seeds: Kansas, Alabama, Baylor, Creighton. 4 seeds: Duke, Illinois, Auburn, Kentucky. Kentucky all the way up to 4 seeds, picking up some huge wins. 5 seeds: San Diego State, BYU, Clemson, and Dayton. Not too high on Dayton, but no one else has really shown that they can hop in there. South Carolina, I think, actually has a better resume than Dayton, but the committee always tends to... That's what this is. This is a brief prediction of what the committee... I'm trying to get inside the committee's mind. This isn't how I would have it. They always lean metrics when seeding a little bit, and South Carolina's metrics are not good. So don't be surprised if you see on Selection Sunday that South Carolina's like a 7 seed. If they lose a couple, maybe an 8 seed, just because they do rely on metrics when it comes to seeding. Resume gets you in seeding, resume gets you in the tournament. Seeding is based on metrics. So bear in mind with that. Let's talk about some of our bubble watch. Our last 4 buys: Michigan State, hanging on by a thread; Seton Hall, Virginia, and New Mexico, all safely in. Our last 4 in, the matchups would be Wake Forest versus Gonzaga. How fun would that be? 2 high teams at the net with not the best resumes, but that would be a fun matchup. And then Providence and Colorado. Colorado sneaking in for us just because the other teams keep losing. First 4 out. The first team out, we have Villanova. I didn't think I would ever say that, but the other teams keep losing, and Villanova has been winning. Next up, Ole Miss, Utah, Texas A&M. As I said, I would change a lot of things. I don't think Texas A&M deserves to be in, but based on what the committee uses, Texas A&M in our first 4 out. Next 4 out, James Madison, Cincinnati, St. John's, and Butler. Close, but these teams, there's only 2 or 3 games left for just about everyone, so these teams are really in desperation mode, but that would be our bubble watch as of right now. Let's move into our games to watch on Saturday. I mentioned we're going to break it up into three different categories. We have 5 ranked on ranked games we want to talk about. There's just other big matchups that we have to mention where at least one of the teams are ranked, and then some bubble games. We're going to talk about some of the big bubble matchups that'll have implications on seeding and just getting in the tournament, most importantly. So let's start with the ranked on ranked matchups. The game of... You could consider any of these the game of the day. Let's start late, though. Let's start at 8 o'clock. Number 4, Tennessee goes and visits number 14, Alabama. This game's on ESPN. Alabama is favored by 2 via KenPom. Remember, Tennessee beat them earlier in the year by 20. Game was at Tennessee. This is a big one. Big one. The winner of this game will probably win the SEC. Hopefully you're like me and have Tennessee and Alabama to win the SEC. Yeah, there we go. But I think Alabama gets it done in this one. Honestly, I mean, I hate betting against Dalton Connect. I just think that home court advantage is going to be it's going to be incredible. I'm not too confident in taking Alabama, but I think I would take Alabama minus the 2. At 1 o'clock, a Kevin McCulloughless number 7 Kansas, it seems. I don't think he's going to play. At number 15, Baylor. Baylor favored by 5 via KenPom. This game's on ABC. Strange. 1 o'clock ABC. Don't see a lot of college basketball games on ABC. But Baylor favored by 5 via KenPom. Got to go against my Jayhawks. I'm taking Baylor. I think Baylor covers the 5. We saw them keep it close at Allen Fieldhouse. They also played without Kevin McCullough that game, remember. Kansas did. At Baylor, I think Baylor's getting better and better and better. It's all going to come down to Nick Timberlake for Kansas. Can he score? Can Johnny Furphy knock down threes? I'm taking Baylor in this one, unfortunately. Sorry, Jayhawks. At 2:30, number 5 Marquette at number 12 Creighton. Creighton favored by 4 via KenPom. This game is on Fox if you want to check it out. We mentioned earlier Tyler Kolek left the game against Providence early. He was all bandaged up in the eye, took a shot. This is an interesting one. Marquette has been playing great as of late outside of the UConn game. Creighton also been playing great, but Creighton did just lose at St. John's, so it's tough. It's gonna be this is a tough line to pick. I think I would lean Creighton just because it's home. We saw what they did against UConn. Creighton beat UConn by 1 million. UConn beat Marquette by 1 million. I know home court advantage means a ton, especially in the Big East. It's a tough line. I would recommend staying away from this game. I'll take Creighton though to cover the 4. At 10 o'clock, number 23 Gonzaga visits number 17 St. Mary's on ESPN. Love seeing St. Mary's and Gonzaga both ranked. That's what we're used to having. I'm glad to see it again. St. Mary's favored by 3 via KenPom. Game to keep an eye on is that Gonzaga-San Francisco game. If Gonzaga loses against San Francisco, this will be a must-win at St. Mary's if they want any chance of an at-large hope. Just keep that in mind, but if the game were to happen today, I would take St. Mary's to cover the 3. I think St. Mary's is a better basketball team. At noon, we're going back in order here, or backwards in order. Number 24, Florida at number 18, South Carolina. This game's on ESPN. 2 very impressive teams in the SEC this year. South Carolina's favored by 1 via KenPom. I'm in on my Gators, man. I took the Gators to make the Final Four. I think Florida, they're going to struggle with this matchup a little bit. I just think Florida's a lot more talented, so I'm going to take Florida to get the upset in this one. That's all the ranked on ranked matchups. Let's move in just some other huge matchups that we just got to talk about. At 1 o'clock, number 13 Illinois at Wisconsin. This game's on the Big Ten Network. Wisconsin's favored by 1 via KenPom. Obviously, Wisconsin has been struggling as of late. I'm saying it though, they've been losing on the road. I'm taking Wisconsin to win this game. I think they cover 1 point via KenPom. At 4 o'clock, Mississippi State at number 11 Auburn. Auburn coming off that loss to Tennessee. This game's on ESPN2. Auburn favored by 9 via KenPom. Mississippi State also coming off that loss to Kentucky. I think Mississippi State covers 9. That seems like a lot of points. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they cover 9 in this one. Also at 4 o'clock, rivalry game, in-state rivalry game. North Carolina State at number 9, North Carolina. This game's on ESPN. North Carolina favored by 13. Very big number. NC State I have not been impressed by. DJ Burns down low. I think it's just going to get worked by Armando Bacot, quite frankly. 13 points is a lot of points, though. I don't know if it'll be that high. That's an interesting number. Probably stay away from. I think North Carolina wins the game 13. That's a lot of points. I'll for the heck of it, I'll take them to cover the 13, just to keep the stats. At 8 o'clock, number 1 Houston visits Oklahoma. Houston favored by 7 via KenPom. This game is on ESPN2. If you want to check that one out, Houston as the number 1 team in the nation, they don't want to lose it. I do think 7 points on the road in the Big 12 to Javion McCollum in Oklahoma. I think they cover 7, but I could also see Houston blowing them out. But I would lean Oklahoma to cover 7 points in that game. Also at 8 o'clock, Michigan State visits number 2 Purdue. This game's on Fox. Purdue favored by 10 via KenPom. That's a big number against Tom Izzo's Michigan State team. Michigan State been struggling. We just saw they lost at home to Ohio State because of a Dale Bonner buzzer beater. But 10 points, that's a lot to give Tom Izzo. I'll take Michigan State to cover the 10. Then at 9 o'clock, TCU visits BYU. This game's on ESPN Plus. Get that subscription. BYU favored by 5 via KenPom. BYU maybe a little bit of a hangover game. You just go into the toughest environment in college basketball and beat a top 10 team. You could get caught up right here. We've seen it. We saw it with Wake Forest. We've seen it. We've seen it many times this year. That's scary. I'll take TCU to cover 5 at least in this one. Some of the bubble matchups we want to talk about. Starting in the Big East at noon. Let's just go in chronological order here. Villanova visits Providence. This game's on Fox. Providence favored by 1 via KenPom. They just got blown out, as mentioned, to Marquette. I think Kim English is a good coach. I don't think Kyle Neptune's a great coach. I think Villanova is more talented than Providence. This is about a 50-50 game as I can see. Providence home court advantage, I think, just proves a little too much. I'll take Providence to win the game. At 2 o'clock, Oregon visits number 6 Arizona. Oregon on the bubble, but not really on the bubble. They would need to win this game at Arizona, so they're playing for a little something. Game's on ESPN, 14-point spread for favored Arizona's way. That's a lot of points in a desperation game. Arizona's not, they're on the 2 line comfortably. Oregon, they need desperation. I don't think they win the game, but I'll take them to cover 14. At 6 o'clock, Virginia visits number 10 Duke. This game is on ESPN. Duke favored by 11 via KenPom, and I think they cover 11. I really think they do. I think this is a beauty of a matchup for Duke. I think they dominate Virginia in this one, quite frankly. At 7 o'clock, a game that is just desperation mode for both teams. Kansas State at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 6 via KenPom. This game's on ESPN+. Both teams need it bad. I won't bet against Kansas State and Jerome Tang when it's a must needed win. I think they cover 6, but Cincinnati also in desperation mode. Let's give some love to the Ivy League. At 7 o'clock, Cornell at Princeton, top of the Ivy League. This game is on ESPN Plus if you want to check it out. Princeton favored by 7 via KenPom. Everybody loves Princeton. They got a lot of talent. They're kind of close to, they're probably not going to do it, but kind of close to an at-large bid. 7 points is a lot of points, but Xavion Lee, if you don't know who he is, he will probably play in the NBA one day. He's the start guard for Princeton. I'll take Princeton to cover the 7 in this one. I'm still in on them. At 8 o'clock, always a Mountain West game we got to include. New Mexico at Boise State. This game's on CBS Sports Network. Boise State is favored by 3 via KenPom. New Mexico has really been struggling as of late. For that reason, I'll take Boise State to cover the 3. Even though New Mexico is right on the bubble, Boise State, they're on the safe side. They're in right now, but don't really want to take any more losses. The only game we want to talk about on Sunday is at 12 o'clock. Seton Hall visits number 3 UConn. This game's on CBS. UConn favored by 14. Remember, Seton Hall beat them earlier in the year. That's a lot of points, but they beat them earlier in the year. We saw what happened coming off of a loss to Creighton, and UConn just destroyed Villanova by 24. I think they do the same thing to Seton Hall. Take UConn to cover the 14 in that game. That is it for today. Kind of a quick podcast, just going through some of the results, all the mayhem that we saw last week, some of the early betting lines, and then, of course, bracketology and All-American teams. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram. We'll post all of our bracketology, all results, all games to watch, all American teams, all on our Instagram and Twitter at Bracket Science with 2 S's. We also post them on our blog, bracketscience.weebly.com. Encourage everyone to check that out. We have a link tree in our Instagram, in our Twitter, or even on Facebook, Bracket Science, 2 words if you prefer that method. But we definitely post more on Instagram and Twitter. Before I lose you, remember to smash that like button below. Click the subscribe button. Refer us to your friends. We really appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter one more time. You really want to. Leave us a review. Leave some comments. Whatever you want to do. We really appreciate everyone. Everyone have a great rest of their weekend. Everyone stay safe. Enjoy some college basketball. See you later.